we believe that being a defender requires more than building shooting skills on a range. It's also a development of the heart, mind, body, and spirit. Join us as we explore what it truly means to be a defender in your training and in your everyday life. Welcome to Defenders Live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Defenders Live. I'm your host, Laura Thorson, and I'm super happy to be with you tonight on a Wednesday night. We're going to have a good time tonight. We've got some things to go over, and you might want to just pop some popcorn and stay a minute and just let it all soak in, because we're going to have a good time. Thank you so much for attending tonight. If you're new or watching this as a replay, welcome. We're so glad you're here. You guys know the drill. Please let me know in the comments where you're watching from. And so tonight, what we're planning on doing is going into a deep dive conversation into the flagship course called Fighting Handgun Concepts with Adam Winch. And we're going to have Adam Boyce on from Spartan Mode and Jeremy Horn from Elite Performance. And Jeremy is not here yet. He is on his way. So this is actually going to work out perfectly because I have a few things planned before we get into the meat of the interview. So I'll introduce those guys a little bit later. We're going to be talking about our experiences from this class. I took this class, what's it been? I can't remember now. 3 weeks ago. And Adam and Jeremy took it a couple weeks ago. It's a really gritty, high intensity, slightly controversial class. And we're also going to be talking about what makes a good instructor and many other topics as well. So the founder of Defenders USA, Adam Winch, is also with us tonight, and he will be on to discuss anything that we feel he needs to discuss, as well as maybe having to defend himself from some of the comments that we'll make during the conversation. Let me know in the comments if you have taken the Fighting Handgun Concepts class from Adam Winch, and let us know what you thought about the class and some of your insights as well. So before we start our discussion, and so that we can buy a little bit of time for Jeremy Horn to get here, be sure to stick around till the end. I'm going to be talking about what to expect on our new channel, as well as plans for what to expect for next week. And it's going to be a little bit different next week, what we're going to be doing. So I need you guys to stick around to know what is in store for that. But first, couple of announcements. I don't know if you realized yet tonight, but I haven't said one thing about a pre-recorded interview, okay? We have been paying attention to what you guys have been giving us as feedback, and we've been talking amongst ourselves, and we feel as though having a conversation with you actually live is a little bit more authentic, and I think we kind of lost some of the spark of what Defenders Live was about by having pre-recorded interviews featured on the show. And I'd love to hear your feedback too. If you have any comments about that, please put that in the comments. But we've decided we're going to keep it live, the whole thing, not just part of it, the whole thing live, as much as we can. The bad news is that I'm such an overachiever. I went ahead and interviewed a bunch of people when I decided we needed to start doing pre-recorded interviews on here. So there are a couple more shows, 2 or 3 shows coming down in the next couple weeks that have the pre-recorded interviews. There's still really good content. It's excellent content. It's just not live. So it's not quite as spontaneous as doing it the way that we've always done it. And it was just kind of an experiment to see if maybe that was a good route to take. But there's just something about being here with you right now in the moment that you just can't duplicate, right? So we're going to be getting back to everything being live in the next couple episodes, but you do want to tune in for those pre-recorded that are coming up. Okay. All right. Yeah. And I wrote in my comments, see, isn't it fun to have it spontaneous and live, and you can see me mess up and just be authentic and be myself, and who knows what's going to happen. Last week or the week before, I kid you not, I was running an interview. I can't remember which one. Me and Adam were in the background watching the interview. And I swear to you, I saw the biggest spider I've ever seen crawl up my wall as the show was going on. And all I could think was, thank God this isn't live right now, because you guys, if it would have been, I would have just got right up out of my chair and I would have killed that spider right on the spot. It would have been the best show ever, probably the most watched one. But it didn't happen because I was busy uh, showing you a pre-recorded interview. So see, we lost an opportunity there for something. So anyway, funny moment. Couldn't share it with you, but we'll see if he comes back. I'm not sure I really got him. I kept looking around to see if he was going to come around the corner of my desk. So he could still be here. You never know. Anyway, okay, so then one more thing that we're going to bring back too. Well, two more things actually. We're going to be bringing back the live Q&A at the end of the broadcast. That is hard to do when you're featuring a pre-recorded broadcast, right? So we're going to have people on live so we can get back to that live Q&A at the end. Let me know if that is what you guys like and what you want to see. I think that it's a lot more fun that way and in the moment. So tonight you can expect that we are going to have Jeremy Horn and Adam Boyce on live, as well as Adam Winch. So you'll be able to ask any of us any questions at the end of the broadcast. So pop those in the comments if they just pop into your head while we're going along here. We'll gather those at the end. And then the last thing I want to talk to you about is we have not had a win of the week for a while. Remember the wins of the week that we were doing there for a little bit? And we use the acronym WOTW in the comments. If you enjoy wins of the week and you like sharing those with people, let's go ahead and pop those in the comments as well. Wins of the week don't have to be anything big. They can just be something that you're proud of that you accomplished this week, just so that we all can like kind of share in each other's wins. I think that's really important. And speaking of wins of the week, and we'll be doing those later in the broadcast. My tidbit of the week today is also tied in with my win of the week. So they are one in the same. So my tidbit of the week this week is called Do It. So there's a funny thing about personal growth. You don't see it in real time. You don't see personal growth sometimes, and you don't feel it in real time. Many times it feels like nothing significant is really happening when you're diligently putting in the work day after day, week after week. Am I right? Does anybody else feel that feeling? And you know that you're trying and you know that you keep showing up, but you don't always see the fruits immediately, right? And then all of a sudden one day something tests you and you really see where the rubber meets the road. Well, I was tested today in two areas of my growth. One was physical strength, and one I didn't see coming, but I'll explain that in just a minute. So I've been very consistently putting in work for the last few months in the fitness category of my personal growth, right? And I was sure that I would still be in the beginner/novice category for this particular strength test that I was to do today, because sadly, that's where I've been most of my life. I'm just being honest, right? Except for that one time when I was in the best shape of my life, right? We all have that moment in our life. It's fleeting, like in your 20s usually, right? And how many times have you caught yourself assuming that, well, I'll probably do this good on fill in the blank, whatever it is, because that's how I've always done. And sadly, we do this in our lives all the time. We limit ourselves to the point of sabotaging our own personal growth, whether it be professionally, personally, on the range, in the gym, you name it. And sometimes we do this without even realizing it, right? So let me tell you a little story that's going to tie all this together. Funny enough, I just happened to be in Bible study today. And we were talking about Mark chapter 9, where a father brings his son to Jesus to be healed. And Jesus says in verse 23, all things are possible to him who believes. And immediately the boy's father cried out and said, I do believe. Help my unbelief. And that really hit me. Help my unbelief. How much faith or belief do we walk around with every day? And could we use more of it? I know I could. So here's an example of how letting that unbelief or doubt creep in and how it can ruin your progress and your potential if you're not careful. So today I was working up to my 1 rep max for strict shoulder presses. I started off decently easy. I put another 10 on and another 5 on, another 5 on until I got to a weight where I started to doubt. I started to think, uh-oh, this is getting heavy. I don't know if I can do this. And as soon as that doubt was seated in my mind, guess what happened? I failed that rep. So I went back 5 pounds. Now think about that for a second. I was at this point and I just came back 5 pounds. And surprisingly, it seemed pretty easy compared to the lift I just tried that I failed. And I thought to myself, but wait, that's only a 5-pound difference. So I thought for a second, was it really the 5 pounds that caused me to fail? Or was it my unbelief? So what I did was I thought about it and I told myself, like, there's no reason that you shouldn't be able to lift this extra 5 pounds. There's no reason for that. So what did I do? I put the 5 pounds back on and I said to myself, do it. Because deep down, I knew I could do it. And guess what? I did it. I did it. And afterwards, I was looking forward to seeing how I measured up, right? Because I didn't know for my weight and my age whether this was a beginner or novice or intermediate. I just knew I did my very best, right? And again, I let doubt creep in and I thought to myself, and don't do this, but this is what really happened. I've always been a beginner or novice level at this, so that's probably where I'm at, right? How many times have you done that to yourself? And what I found out shocked me. I'd actually hit intermediate for the first time in years. And my first comment, as I'm shouting from the rooftops with glee, like squealing, I'm so excited, was, I can't believe it. Did you hear what I said? I can't believe it. That's what I said. And then I was reminded, why can't I believe it? Have I put in the work? Yes. Have I been diligent? Yes. Then why can I not believe it? So, of course, it's not only possible, it's probable given the work put in. But there again, my belief was tested. So, the moral of the story, my encouragement to you tonight is to think about where in your life are you lacking that faith? Where in your life are you letting doubt creep in? Remember when I was referring to the 5 extra pounds and I couldn't believe that the 5 extra pounds made that much difference? Think about what is your symbolic 5 pounds, right? Where you start to doubt and you think to yourself, this is just too hard. I can't do it. This is too much. And then take those moments and use those as opportunities to test yourself, to test your faith, to lean into it, and don't be afraid. Trust me, you will surprise yourself with what you can do. And how do I know? Because I did it. And while it may be a small example in my life, let it remind you that you can do great things too, if you believe. Okay. I'm glad I got that off my chest, guys. Thanks for listening. All right, let's move into the comments and see who's watching tonight. And then I'll see if Jeremy is in the house yet. He's still not here, but that's okay. He doesn't have to be here in the very beginning. But let me check in the comments, see who's watching. So I don't know where Mr. Landfill is from, but I'm glad that you're watching, whoever you are. Kathy and Lynn from Michigan, hello. Thank you for watching. Let's see. Eric from Oregon. Scott, listening while driving. Hi, Nancy from Montana. How are you? Someone signed up to take my class in October. Thank you. That's awesome. I don't know who that is. It's on a private group, so I can't tell, but I'm so glad. And I'm looking forward to that October class. And let's see. Haven Defense Company is back in the house in Colorado. And Aaron Nelson. Hey, Aaron. Thank you for watching. That's wonderful. I see a bunch of comments in here. So that's awesome. Thank you guys for commenting and for bantering back and forth. That's really helpful. And oh, Jeremy is here. Okay, great. Awesome. Okay, so I have to make my screen bigger so I can see Jeremy. There he is. All right, so the gang's all here, guys. So let me introduce Adam. I'll introduce Adam and Jeremy both, and then we'll get started on the Fighting Handgun Concepts deep dive. Adam Boyce is the owner of Spartan Mode, a training company in Idaho Falls, Idaho. He's an authorized instructor of martial blade concepts and one of only a handful of MBC instructors in the entire world who travel to teach seminars. He's a defensive tactics instructor, pistol, rifle, shotgun instructor, and knife designer. He's also has multiple years training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I'm going too fast here. And mixed martial arts. Okay. And Jeremy Horn is the founder of Elite Performance, a mixed martial arts training organization based in Salt Lake City. He's been an active competitor in MMA for over 30 years and has fought in over 180 fights during that career, starting in 1990. He has fought in almost every fighting organization in the world and has also trained 6 UFC world champions. He was the former International Fighting Championships middleweight champion and the King of the Cage light heavyweight champion. Sorry, guys, that was as painful for me as it was for you. All right, so let me get Adam Boyce and Jeremy Horn on the show, and I'm going to need Adam Winch too, because Adam is going to start with what the Fighting Handgun Concepts class is. Welcome to the show, guys. Thank you so much for being here. I am going to unmute Jeremy. Hey, Jeremy, you have kids in background training tonight?
Say it again.
Do you have kids in the background training tonight like you did on the last show you were on?
No, not tonight. I've got the adults in the other room there, so they may be making a ruckus here. They may interrupt us, but I'll try to keep them quiet.
No worries. No worries. So, okay, so we're going to talk about the Fighting Handgun Concepts class. We all three have taken it recently. And so let's kick it off, Adam, with talking about what the class is, why you developed it, and then we've got some videos to show as well.
Okay, so this literally doesn't come from the training world. This comes from stuff I've actually had to do as a cop, right? I have been in multiple fights and have had to use a gun on duty, and it wasn't from the perfect flat-footed square range type of thing. And, you know, it was rolling around, you know, on your back, on your knees, seated, standing up, trying to shoot a gun and defend life. And so from there, along with some other stuff that happened either on duty to myself or to my partners at work, or that we saw civilians got themselves into, I found that sometimes our fights defensively don't just mimic the square flat range. So from there, it became kind of a burning passion to prepare people for the stuff that I'd gone through and some of the folks I know had gone through. Instead of, you know, once you've got the great skills and you can shoot well on a good square range, you can be safe with it. Now let's start incorporating stuff that seems a bit realistic compared to what I went through and some of the others went through. And so from there, that's kind of what this class came from. And it built from right there. So it's a pretty intense class. It makes you work. It'll make you sore. But it's certainly not the standard, just stand there, draw and deliver and get your sub-second draw stroke. I mean, those are all good skills, but at some point you got to move beyond it. And that's what this class is.
And we have a video to kind of give everyone context about a real life scenario, right?
Yeah, this is excellent.
I'm totally wiped out from the tidbit.
Okay, so guys, we have some context coming up here, right? You're going to see a shooting that is recently making the rounds in social media. It's a law enforcement shooting, but I think it's applicable to anybody who carries a gun in defensive life. And it's also applicable to what Adam Boyce and Jeremy Horn and Laura were just all dumb enough to go through with me recently. So it puts this into context, so watch this closely.
Okay, let me see if I can get this to come up here. There we go. Hopefully you guys can hear it.
Okay, watch the crossfire! I just got shot! I just got shot! Hey! 10-1! I'm putting a shot! 10-1! It's okay. I didn't shoot.
So that's probably enough context, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, enough context. It was a little bit choppy for those of you who are watching, so let me give you a quick description, right? There's a couple cops. They're doing a stop on some type of car. It looks like it's what we call a high-risk stop. And at some point, for whatever reason, the officers decided they need to fire their gun. And there was a cop that was behind the other officer who was trying to open a door. He had a gun in his hand, trying to open the door on the suspect car. And cop number 2, who was behind him, right, as cop number 1 reached for the car, cop number 2 opened fire, ended up shooting his partner in the hand. It looks like the dude lost a finger of some type, right? That's a bad way to lose a finger. Kind of painful. Of course, you saw the blood that was there. So as we go into this course, that gives some of the context. What we're doing is you shouldn't be firing bullets from behind people in close quarters like that, because you can wing somebody you don't intend to do, which is what happened here.
Well, the other thing too is that a real fight, as we see in this video, is super fast. There's a lot going on. There's chaos involved, right? There's adrenaline, there's high heart rates, et cetera, et cetera. So you do the best you can to duplicate some of that in the class.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, all right. I mean, if you can't learn to manage a gun safely and use a gun safely and think while under stress, right? Adrenal dump has happened. Exertion of the lungs, airflow is happening, right? Then that's problematic. So to me, it's being able to do all sorts of unconventional things while also being able to think, handle a gun safely, and work around probably the close quarters of other people, because certainly in the military context, you have that. Certainly in the law enforcement context, you have that. And I would tell you, oftentimes in the civilian context, you might have that too, because maybe your family members are there or other innocents are there. And therefore, you have to be just as careful of them as you are of making sure your shots go where they need to go.
Mm-hmm. So before we go into the deep dive, then let's run this video, and this will just show just little clips of what Adam, Jeremy, and I went through in your class. It's just a very small bit of what you did. That's an inside joke. So there it is in a nutshell. So let's start with anything you want to add, Adam, before we continue? Okay. Adam, Boyce, and Jeremy, would you guys start with talking about some of your past training experiences, some of the stuff you've done leading up to this class?
Sure. Adam, you want to go ahead and start?
Yeah, so a little bit of background for my day job. I work for a government agency. Been in the training department for about the last 8 years of the 15 or so I've been there. Taken a lot of classes. Additionally, outside of work, I've taken about 15 classes now, just handgun classes outside, plus additional other courses. Training is kind of a passion of mine. I'm also an instructor, so one of the things I always try to do is take classes from others, is find the best way to teach. So that's kind of a little bit of background of me as far as an instructor goes.
Oh, yeah, so obviously I've been in the MMA community for quite a long time, and for me personally, that has only been a part of my training. I've always thought that self-defense is a bigger picture than just fighting. So I've been shooting for quite a while, and I've been training with law enforcement for quite a while. I've done several dozen pistol courses as well, and a few rifle courses. But like Adam said, as an instructor, I'm always looking to get another perspective on how things are taught, get another perspective on another view, another angle on how to do things well.
Was there, what were your guys' expectations coming into the class? And were those expectations met, first of all, and was it any different than what you kind of had planned on?
Well, so the first time I did this class was actually, I went to Arizona and did this class as well.
This was your second time.
Yeah. Well, a similar class. I'm not sure if it was exactly the same class, but we did a lot of the similar drills and concepts and stuff. So, and that's actually what I was looking for to try to set this up and bring it back up to Salt Lake, because I wanted to do more of that. It's something that's very unique. I haven't seen it in a lot of other classes. So yeah, I was really looking forward to doing it again and getting more reps.
Yeah.
Was this your first time, Adam?
Yeah, this is my first time taking a class from Adam. I've actually taken 2 classes in the past with Adam. So it was really fun to see the way that he was able to relay information. That's something I really respect about Adam from the standpoint of an instructor, is he's not just one of those guys that, this is how you do it. He's constantly looking to improve his knowledge and skills. The thing that I was really probably most excited about, my takeaway from the class, was just Adam's ability to chunk pieces of information and do it in a safe manner. So we were taking things that I can't do in a lot of places. So a lot of government agencies and law enforcement won't allow you to do some of the things we were able to do in this class, but Adam did it in a safe manner. That's what probably the biggest takeaway was, is just being able to do things that I normally can't do, but are relevant to an actual situation.
Yeah, and that was one of the things too that we talked about earlier, was like, this kind of a class requires a lot of trust in the instructor, in Adam, and in your fellow classmates, because you're doing some things that are potentially pretty dangerous. I mean, you have a gun in your hand anyway if you're on just doing a flat range exercise, right? So we know that there's a risk there. But whenever you're moving around and all of that, you cannot disengage your brain at any point. You have to stay completely present. So that was one of the things I noticed. And how did that really play a role for you guys in this class? Keep making jokes, Adam Winch. The mason jar has water in it. It's water. Smell it. I don't care. Smell of it.
Whatever.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I was looking forward to in this class the most, is exactly that. Like, when you're doing a class like this, it's not typical. It's not standing on a line with everybody next to me side by side. There's more movement involved, and you have to be able to trust the people you're training with. So that's something that I always look forward to, pushing a little faster, going a little higher, I don't want to say a little more dangerous, because it was obviously very safe, but you guys get what I'm saying, pushing that envelope a little bit more and being willing to do things that are more realistic. I heard somebody say a long time ago, the flat range, in the real world, the bad guys are not downrange and all the good guys are standing behind me. In the real world, they're all mixed up, and you've got to be able to navigate that. And I love that Adam is willing to push that boundary and work in that space, rather than the bad guys are down there, the good guys are behind me.
So can I jump in here, Laura? I think the important thing here is the context, right? Is if your fight comes, just like Jeremy just said, right, it's probably not going to be sanitized. It's probably not going to be perfectly in line. And really, if anything, why not build for or train for what could be the worst case scenario. And I'd tell you, Laura, the class you went through, and of course these two gentlemen went through, that was still in my world almost kind of kindergartenish. We haven't gotten as far as we wanted to. If I did this right, we'd run it probably for 5 days. And it's not about, the instructor or anything like that. It really just comes down to, can you think and move and shoot, and can you do so in really compromised positions or extreme high heart rates? Because that context is the parts that get lost. And I found in a lot of classes I went to, and man, I love fighting that sub-second draw stroke, right? Trying to beat Jeremy Horn to a draw stroke or trying to beat Adam Boyce to a draw stroke is tough, right? It takes some work. But suddenly that tends to go away, I found, for me, in real fights. And now it's just go as quickly as you possibly can in these weird positions. And I just want people to have that introduction of a day or two or more to where, because the body doesn't go well where the brain's not been before. So if we can take the brain there before and take the body there too, now the intro's been made. So when the time comes, it's not unfamiliar, and it's something they can do with a lot less thought or a lot less work when they need to be focusing on, saving life. So that's really the whole context behind it. And I'm just so glad you three were able to go through this. I mean, first of all, you couldn't find three better people in the world. Secondly, just willing to sit there and listen and learn and get picked on and abused.
Yeah, exactly. Getting picked on and abused. So did you guys see in that video where there was a time where I got done shooting and I looked up at Adam and my jaw dropped wide open? Tell them what you were doing, Adam.
No.
He was playing a joke on me, and all my shots were in the A zone when I was doing that drill. And then all of a sudden, these shots started showing up really super low on my target.
She's mad at me.
I thought they were my shots. He was shooting my target, making me think I was shooting those shots. That's what that face was. And I believed him for a minute. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe in that moment that I let me think that those could possibly be my shots, because in my mind, deep down, I knew they couldn't be my shots. They were so low. It was insane. They were almost off the target.
Whatever. So, you missed and you know it.
No, I did not miss. I did not miss. So anyway, back to the program. So one of the things, and I know this is kindergarten for you, Adam, but there's a lot of people that haven't taken this advanced, I would call, of a class, and they're still used to instructors telling them the round count for each drill. And one of the favorite moments I remember from the Montana class was somebody asked you before the next drill, how many rounds will we need for this? And you went, yes. All the rounds, load up all the rounds. So not only that, but you gave us the freedom to vary our strings of fire. It was not shoot two, shoot two, shoot two, and talk about why that's important.
Well, I mean, what's your gunfight going to take?
Right.
Right. I mean, unfortunately, Adam Boyce, Jeremy Horn, and I probably won't be at your gunfight, right? So you got to do it for yourself. And so that was the idea behind it.
Yeah, well, it's so simple to Adam, right? But how many classes have you guys been to where that's not the case at all? Everything is very regimented. You know what round count for each drill. Yep. Do the same drill the same way over and over again, right?
Yeah. So he did this to me in the Arizona class, and then I heard him do it to another guy when we came in Utah, and that is, I shoot competitively in USPSA a lot, and 2 is the standard. So every drill for me was drawing 2 or moving 2. And finally he goes, okay, you're not allowed to shoot 2 anymore. You can shoot 1, you can shoot 3, you can shoot 5, whatever, but you cannot shoot pairs. Because that was my standard habit, was draw and get 2 shots and then move on. But you're right. Mm-hmm. Like it's good to open that up and change, your strings of fire and realize that 2 may not be enough.
Yeah.
How many?
So context, right? What if Mr. Bad Guy needs 3 servings of love, 4 servings of love, 1 serving of love, right? Whatever it takes, right? So therefore, right, confirming every shot, yeah, it might be very quick, but you go until you know confidently that would be over, and therefore the strings of fire might need to be changed. So, I mean, that's the point behind it. And it was so cool, right? When I went up to Jeremy back, what was it, earlier this spring, like, you are banned from 2, and his eyes kind of went, oh, okay, that makes sense. And, well, what if that's what it needs?
One of my favorite moments from the class is Jeremy's a phenomenal shooter and he's very well prepared. He's got all his magazines ready and loaded. And we're doing this drill where, Adam would call something out. And most of us had, 3, maybe 4 magazines on us. But I don't know how many Jeremy had, but you had to keep running until your magazines ran out. And this is the one time where maybe being a little over prepared wasn't the best thing. But man, he kept going. It was awesome.
he was so wore out.
I heard you had like 15 magazines, Jeremy. Is that right?
Yeah. So I don't, when I go to matches, I try not to reload. I'd rather just have all the mags loaded up at once. So yeah, I've got like 15 mags and I usually just load them all.
Wow.
Plus when I go to classes, I know this is kind of standard, but getting a little bit of downtime, a little bit of time to let your brain decompress a little bit is good. So a lot of instructors will build that in and they'll say, okay, here's our drill. Now take 5 minutes, go reload your mags and then get some water. And, it's time to kind of decompress your brain a little bit. And I don't like that. I want to keep shooting. So I have mags. I'm jamming
that
mags.
That sounds like somebody else I know.
Yeah. So when he's like, okay, go reload your mags. Like, I'm ready. What are we doing? I'm here.
Oh man.
Yeah. So yeah, it bit me in the ass that time because I had like 9 mags on me, 23 round mags. So yeah, I was hurting.
Yeah, but I heard you were tough, that you didn't wear out very quickly either.
That's just because I go slower than I should. I'm old and they cut me some slack and let me run slower than the other guys.
Whatever.
So how much would in this class in particular, how much of this do you think is physical and how much is mental? Like, is there a lot of cognitive stacking going on for you guys? I know there was for me.
Yeah, there is. I think I maybe have a little bit of an advantage in things like this because of my background in fighting. I deal with stress fairly well, and I deal with stress by going, yeah, screw it. I'm not going to go as fast as you want me to. I'm going to go at the pace that I can manage, and if that's not fast enough for you, so what? I've got a gun. I'm not going to run. I'm not going to outrun my headlights, as they say. And so I just
your limitations. That's good.
I just refuse to get stressed out and anxious. Where other guys, I see them, they're trying really hard to keep up with the pace that Adam is asking for, and I won't. If I can't keep up with that pace safely, I just won't do it. And I don't care. I won't let that stress get to me. Where other guys, I see them starting to freak out, and they're losing it, like trying to do a reload, and they're they're bottling mags and stuff. So yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of physical and it's a lot of mental. And if you just put a cap on the physical and be like, look, I'm not going any faster than this, then it allows you a little more bandwidth to deal with the mental.
That's a really good point, because I don't see a lot of people able to even know where their limitations are, let alone handle them very well.
Yeah.
But that's just my observation.
That's one thing that Adam did really well in this class too, is he allowed for a growth mindset. And the way he kind of put it on me is Adam knows me from a couple classes we've taken together. And for whatever reason, he's able to find those things that just made me a little bit uncomfortable. But it was pushing me to work a little bit harder to maybe gain a little bit more knowledge. And that was kind of something that was kind of cool to experience. Usually I'll go to class and I'm usually one of the better shooters. This class attracted a lot of really good shooters. Jeremy, some of the SWAT cops. So trying to keep up with some of these shooters that were amazing was a little bit intimidating, trying to balance that with what Adam was asking me to do. So it really pushed me to another level. I found just some of the tweaks that he gave me that week. I've been implementing at training and I'm seeing some huge improvements, which again says a lot considering I've taken a lot of classes. So he pushed me to new limits for sure.
Yeah, and that's really important too. And we're going to get into traits of good instructors. And Adam, we're talking about you, so just get over it. But the traits of good instructors is that they're able to personalize what's going on to each student. They're able to give something to each student. And as you just said, many times when you're one of the better shooters in the class, you end up leaving and not getting very much, right? And that's kind of a pet peeve of some shooters, I think, that go to classes frequently. The other thing too that I put in my notes was that good instructors can read their students really well. And Adam does two things that I really appreciate. One, he interjects humor when needed so that he can not be just serious drill sergeant all the time, that he can show compassion for people, be funny, lighten the mood, have fun. Because if you're not having fun, why are you there? But then also he can be really serious when needed too. And there are times you need to be serious, especially in this class. This is not a beginner's class. I think everyone should aspire to get to a level that they could be able to take this class and get something from it. But yeah. So Adam, could I ask you really quick? Adam Winch.
Oh, come on. I'm just joking.
Adam Winch, could I ask you really quick, because you are a great observer of people, especially on a shooting line. And we had a discussion about this before. Could you sort of talk about what it is that you could learn? And this is the trait of a good instructor. And this is why I want to bring this up, because all of us that are instructors, and even if we're not, we can learn something from this. What is it that what is this gift that you have to be able Kathy's comment. That's an inside joke for anyone that's taken one of Adam's classes. What is it that you're able to observe on a shooting line that you think maybe some other instructors might miss? I don't know how else to say that question, but you know what I'm getting at, right?
First of all, it's kind of weird to be sitting here.
Well, get over it. I told you to get over it.
I kind of just want to hide. You know, what's so interesting on a range? Now, I'll bet you, Adam, you see this in your gym and all your knife training. Jeremy, I know you see this constantly in your gym, right? It's so interesting. You can take something simple, in this case, just gun training, and you can literally in 5, 10, 15 seconds get a generally good read of who this person is, their personality, their thought process, and how they process information, how they respond to good, to bad, to stress. It's so interesting. In seconds, you can begin to get a really good idea who these people are. And really, okay, so Adam Boyce here is one of the world's top knife trainers, right? And guns and everything else. You know, Jeremy Horn, I mean, you don't get much better than that, right? In the UFC MMA world. And I think that those two boys and little guy me, right? I'm not a gun trainer, right? Adam's probably not really a knife trainer, and Jeremy certainly is not a UFC trainer. You know what they are? They're people trainers. And we use the tool of UFC, of the knife or the gun in my case, to learn people and to grow them as people. At least that's how I see it. And I think that if you've become a student of people, if you're learning people and you spend the time studying people, if people interest you, you can use almost anything to learn them very quickly or get a good general idea of them, and then use themselves, the way they think, the way they do things, to grow them in the skill that we might be teaching, right? In this case, UFC, knives, guns, whatever. And I just find it so interesting. The more and more I train people, the more I realize I'm not a gun trainer. I'm really a grower of people, and these guys certainly are. And you just use that. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to describe it. It's just something you learn so quickly to read people. I mean, like 5 seconds. You're like, okay, I got a general idea who this person is. And then as you spend more time with them, you get more of a library of who they are, right? A depth of them. And you can now use those little things, the knowledge about them, the things you observe in them, to now tailor what little you're trying to do to where they understand the way with which they think, and then the way they can actually perform. And it might be different person to person. And it really comes down to the interest in people and being a person trainer versus just a skills trainer. That's how I see it.
So then what was the thing you said to Adam Boyce that made him work harder? You don't remember?
I don't know. I think I just made him mad.
Oh, that's what you do to me all the time.
We're going to keep that to us. I don't need anybody else to know about it.
Well, yeah, we all want to know. We all want to know. Yeah. No, but that's what I was saying before too, is Adam Winch is good at reading people. He's good at finding and spotting what your weaknesses are for each individual person. And I think that's really important, because he doesn't use those to exploit them in a bad way. He uses those to help you and help you grow. And it's not always fun.
But Laura, I watched Jeremy do this. I watched him do it a couple times that weekend. I literally watched Adam. He got parked next to a dude who needed somebody expert next to him. And I watched Adam read those people over and over and over. It was so cool to watch, right? I mean, I'm sure you guys have thoughts on this. I don't want to dominate this one, but I mean, I watched you guys do this to a level of expertise I just aspire to.
He just won't take credit for anything.
Yeah, I think that's something that's important. A lot of people, like he said, it's not about the subject matter always. Like if you are a good shooter, then you're a good shooter, but you can still be a crap teacher, right? Like teaching is a skill all of its own, and it doesn't matter what the subject matter is. If you are a good teacher, then you can teach, to whatever level your knowledge of the subject matter is. I've seen people in my gym, and I'm sure these guys have seen it as well, where I will show somebody something and they're fairly new at this skill, and then I will catch them teaching somebody next to them, and I can hear the way they talk and I can hear what they're saying, and I can tell that they understand the technique and they are teaching it properly, right? They know how to connect with people, they know how to convey information, and that's a skill that you can. Some people have it naturally, obviously, but being able to teach doesn't really have anything to do with what you're teaching. It's a skill all by itself. So, if you know how to do something and you're a good teacher, then you can teach that thing. But just because I've taken classes, lots of classes from guys that are really, really good shooters, but they're not good teachers. I'm like, this is garbage. Like, you're a better shooter than me, but this is a waste of my time, Whereas somebody could be, neither of these guys, but somebody could be a lesser shooter than me and still be able to have information that is useful and be able to teach, right? Your skill level is not, it's not linked to your ability to teach.
Totally agree.
Yeah, and off of that, I think there's kind of three things that go with what Jeremy's saying that I look for as far as what makes a good instructor. And one is deep knowledge. They have that knowledge and ability to, like Jeremy was talking about, maybe look at something from a depth where they can portray something in a simple manner. The other thing is that they give effective feedback. So like Jeremy has mentioned, they can do it really good, but maybe they can't tell you in a way that you understand. And then the last thing, like you were talking about, is that emotional connection or the ability to communicate with that person, to be on that same level so that they feel like you care, is all three things that I think are critical as far as instructor goes.
Yeah, very true.
So we're getting close to the hour now, which is flipping crazy to me. Anytime that I'm actually live on these shows, the hours go by like minutes. So a couple of things. Can you take that banner down, Adam? A couple of things. We're getting to the end. So if you guys have any questions at all, be sure to pop those in the comments because we're going to be wrapping up here soon. And then do you guys have any parting thoughts, any final thoughts? And if you don't have anything in particular, I'd be curious to know what you specifically took away from this class. What was your biggest aha moment or something that really stuck with you?
For me personally, I always take little bits and pieces away. One thing that was really big for me was he made some changes to how he explained the grip and your finger placement on the grip. And I don't know if I was doing it before or not, but now I'm actually focusing on it and making a focused effort to do that. And it's changing things. It's not very often that you can go to a class like this, or any class really in anything, and learn something and right away make changes and improvements. A lot of times it's, hey, work on this, and then 6 months of work, it gets better. But now I'm like, oh, if I do this one thing differently, it makes a difference right now. So that was pretty big for me.
Yeah, and not to piggyback off what Jeremy said, but that's one of the things, everybody always talks about grip when you go to class, but there were some very simple ways that Adam analyzed the way that I was holding the gun, and just switching those up just a little bit made a huge difference. He also looked at the way that I was carrying. I have a holster that I thought, hey, this is perfect for concealment. Once we were doing a lot of that up and down on the ground, and then also trying to access my firearm, I realized that there's a few things that I need to change in my everyday setup, which I thought was pretty squared away. So that's a game changer, being able to carry something in a manner that can actually help you should the worst day of your life ever occur.
Yeah,
is
you want to learn that in training. Learn that in training. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
So for me, I'll add to this. My biggest takeaway from the class was that I learned that there is no amount of physical shape I can get into that will ever be enough. This kind of class will humble you physically. It'll humble you mentally, and it'll definitely put you at your limits in terms of both of those things. But that was my biggest takeaway, was I kind of thought I could do a few things, and then by the end of the class, I was like, I'm not as far as long as I thought I was. And that's good, because you need to know those things and you need to go home and work on stuff. So
I will say, though, looking at the video afterwards, we were lucky that we had Jeremy in the mats, so we were pretty comfortable.
Yeah, you were spoiled with those mats.
Yeah, we were.
I had dirt everywhere.
You're an animal.
Yeah. It's kind of fun. I actually enjoy getting dirty. I know a lot of people don't, but I truly do. I don't know what it is about it. I was telling you the other day too, and I think I must just have something wrong with me or something. But like, if there would have been burpees and barbells at the 25-yard line every time we went to the rear and we had to, I would have just loved it. Like, that's the kind of class I could just wake up and do that every day and just want more of. And I know there's other people that are the impression that like they just can't wait for it to be over. I don't know. Maybe he just didn't push me hard enough for me to just want to go home or throw my sucker in the dirt. I don't know, but I loved it.
I don't think so. It's interesting hearing people's comments, especially after we did that lot of running. I mean, I think the one drill was about 4 minutes and 20 seconds that Adam had us going back and forth. Again, Jeremy went a little longer because he had a lot more rounds, but interesting enough, it was very uncomfortable. It was exhausting. And then trying to make your shots, where I was kind of watching the video and there was a 17-ish yard headshot after your heart's already up to like 140. So taking that away, it's interesting is while you're in the moment, it was really not super fun. But afterwards, hearing everybody on the line, it was. But at the same time, it's like, oh my gosh, I got to do good here. And hearing everybody's comments afterwards, everybody had a blast after it was over. During it, not so much. So unless you're like you.
Yeah, I guess I can see that. I mean, there are moments where you want to talk back to him and say, quit making me do this thing. But
I was talking back the whole time. I just mumbling under my breath. He didn't hear me.
Oh, okay.
I was swearing at him the whole time. He just couldn't hear me.
That's awesome. Well, this has been super fun, you guys. Any final thoughts before I move on to the next thing? We're going to go into the wins of the week. If you guys have any wins of the week, put them in the comments. If they're not there, I won't show them and we won't do it. Or if there's no questions either.
Well, I need to find out when his schedule is open again so we can bring him back for like a 3-day class. I'd love to do get a little deeper on that, and we can be a little more selective about who's coming, or make sure everybody's up to par. I've had a bunch of guys that have contacted me about wanting to do kind of a dry fire class, basically just working on some of the fundamentals and that stuff. So yeah, I want to get your schedule so we can get you back here as soon as possible.
Good, because that's close to Montana. Yeah.
Yeah, just let me know. Let me know.
I can hear your voice. They're having fun. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to move on then. Thank you guys so much for your time tonight. This was fun. I knew it would be. And we'll move on to the next thing. We'll see if we have any wins of the week here. All right. So I don't really think anybody put in their wins of the week. Here, I'm going back live again so you guys can all comment and participate in wins of the week and everything. And then, well, Adam has a win of the week. So let's see what that is. Adam's win of the week. I've been going through harsh physical therapy for an old injury. Was finally able to do a workout I've not been able to do for a long time. It was glorious. A true win. That is a win for sure. And I shared mine during the tidbit. So if you didn't see the tidbit of the week, go back and push a rewind at the end of this broadcast, and you can watch what my win of the week was. So if there aren't any questions then, and I don't see any in the comments. Oh, Catherine has the win of the week. Finished writing my the dry fire class I was working on. I didn't know you were doing a dry fire class. That's cool. And congratulations on getting selected for Aspic. That's really cool too, Kathy. All right. So there's no Q&A questions. If there are some that come up here, Adam will have to get my attention because this screen is in front of that screen and I won't be able to see. Okay, so let's go into what to expect for next week. And then a quick little plug here for the Defenders Live Locals channel. I just want to thank the people who have gone on that Defenders Live Locals channel and have become a paid member, because that channel is where we're going to be bringing you stuff even more. We've already put down 2 Defenders Uncensored episodes, and we're working on episode 3 this week to drop. And that is where we're putting all the things that we cannot put on YouTube or Facebook. And it's on some varying topics, mostly about what's going on in our world today, and if there's anything at all we can do about it. And we just talk about varying topics that relate to us in our lives right now, because there's a lot going on in the world. And in the past, we've had JT Grover of RevTech Firearm Instruction. We've had Seth Williams on. We've got a couple of special guests coming on these upcoming episodes who you've not heard of before. So we'll be introducing them. But they're just episodes to really have some real conversations about how we can improve our lives and how we can kind of work together and have these conversations and work through some stuff to build better lives for ourselves, our communities, and our families. So it's, again, just stuff. A lot of it is controversial, but shouldn't be. We really don't understand why it is controversial, but that's where you find it. And that's why it's there. It's at locals.com. Go to the Discover tab and search up Defenders Live, and you'll find those Defenders Uncensored conversations going on there. So I'd love to see you over there. Now, what to expect for next week? Next week is funny. Speaking of what I just said, we've got a guest on next week who we cannot put on YouTube or Facebook either. And his name is John Frankman. He's a former Army captain who served as a Green Beret to the 7th Special Forces Group. And he's recently left the military due to difficulties surrounding the mandate. I'm not even going to say the B word. I'm just going to say the mandate, and you'll know what I mean. And his story is incredible. This man has so much moral courage, and he exemplifies the importance of standing up for what you believe in, even when the deck is stacked against you. And it definitely has been for him over the past few years. So if you want to see that interview, and I will put it in, I'll put the where to go on the Defenders Live Facebook group. If you're not a member of that, join that as well. And on the Locals channel. But that interview will only be on Rumble. And because that's the only uncensored platform that we can find right now. So due to the nature of the content, that's where that will be. And you will find that next week. I will still be live. It will still be live just like normal, except it'll only be on Rumble. And that's the only place you're going to be able to find it. So be looking on the Defenders Live Facebook group. I'll send an email out if you're part of that. And I look forward to seeing all of you next week, 7 p.m. Mountain Time, 7 p.m. Mountain Time next Wednesday. Until